Hello, everybody. Welcome to the SIG Cloud Provider meeting on Wednesday, March 16th. We will go ahead and get started. Please remember to abide by the CNCF Code of Conduct. And go ahead and add yourself to the attending list. All right, so we'll start with a bug scrub and triage. I'm going to share my screen real quick. All right, it looks like we have just one issue. Entry vSphere. Persistent volume created using vSphere hangs in a pending state with no error message. Shall I accept this and assign it to, is it Lubron?
Yeah. Lubron, do you know anything about this issue that we're looking at? Sorry to put you on the spot. I know you just joined the call.
Sorry.
Or can we just assign it to you and accept it?
Yeah, I'll find corresponding CSI person to take it.
Okay. Is it dash accepted or just triage space accepted? Never mind, space.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I assume it's this.
LeBron, yeah, second.
Cool. All right, that was a pretty quick triage. Go ahead and go through sub-project updates. So for provider AWS, I don't have too much. I think we bumped 122, our 122 release, and made some progress on, we added some EDE tests. Anything, Kishore, for the load balancer controller?
I'm preparing for the 2.4.1 patch release. It should go out in a day or two. There are some minor fixes in the load balancer controller.
Got it. Okay, you can add the version there if you want. Azure, do you want to give an update?
Sure. Yeah, no major updates or changes. I do have a couple of PRs we're trying to get through, and I had talked to Andrew Sykim about the second one. He said maybe take it to SIG Network. So I'm going to talk to them about that, hopefully. But question about that first one, Andrew, you added some comments yesterday. I'm just kind of wondering, I know that we obviously aren't, getting this in right the second or anything, but like, basically it looks like you're saying, hey, maybe we should take a totally different approach. And I'm like, if we're trying to I kind of want to yes and that, like if we're trying to solve an actual bug, do we wait for the optimal? I don't know. Basically, I just want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So I do think that, so I don't think my suggestion was like a completely different approach. It was more like, let's do a bit of cleanup along the way.
Okay.
But so this is on the agenda for like just general PRs we should review for code freeze. So maybe
Oh,
we'll
fantastic.
the sub-project
Let's talk
updates
about
and
it then. Sorry, I didn't make it all the way down.
No worries. I added it like literally like 30 seconds ago. So.
Oh, okay, fantastic. But then we're thinking the same thing. All right, so I yield the floor back.
Cool. All right. GCP?
Yeah, so made some progress on the E2E test for kubelet credential provider. I kind of hacked a workaround, sort of. It's on the review list below, so we can talk about it more then. I don't know if, Walter, you had anything else to add? No? Okay, so we're good.
Okay, IBM?
Yeah, we just finished our 124 bring up, working with Red Hat on the 4.11 EP work install with the cloud provider there. And then we're doing some refactoring on our VPC load balancer code. If you recall a while ago, talked about the open source for that. We have kind of is broken into 2 bits, and we're trying to refactor that to make it a little bit easier. I know, Andrew, you had mentioned that it would be nice to not have those 2 repos, and that's what we're working on, cleaning that up. So that's it.
Cool. vSphere.
We just released 1.22.2, 1.21.2 for some bug fixes. Didn't make any progress on the E2E test yet.
Cool. Extraction migration. Walter, do you want to go first?
Sorry, I had to find the unmute button. The API server network proxy, there've been a bunch of fixes in the last few weeks, and we did put out a .30 release, and that includes some fixes on the client library, which goes into the Kube API server. So I would recommend, if anyone's using the API server network proxy, to make sure they pick up the .30 release.
Cool. All right. Should we move into the first agenda item here, which is, leader migration update for each cloud provider?
Yeah, so like I'm just trying to ping everybody to see if there's any new cloud provider that have tested cloud leader migration yet. Like we have AWS and GCP are done already. So if there's anybody have tried it at least once, please let me know.
So might be actually valuable to be a little more directive. I think the big one that we are missing is Azure. And so I don't know, I mean, I know Elmico was looking to help, but we had also been looking to try and reach out to Bridget. And since Bridget is on the call.
Yeah, Elmico and I have an email thread. I just have had a inconveniently scheduled vacation over the last couple of weeks. I've been in and out, so I have no update on it because I have not been able to look through the stuff he sent me. I hope to be able to by the next meeting.
Cool. Thank you.
And Nick, can you remind me what the state of this on the AWS side is?
Yeah. So we are exercising it in EKS. Like we've pretty decently well tested it. Yeah, I guess we're planning on using it fairly soon. So we have like internal tests using it. We just don't. I haven't like updated the cloud provider open source repo to do any like automatic installation of the config or anything like that yet. Or and we also don't have tests on that repo.
Gotcha. Okay. So I think, Java, I think the context is like the V1 API update and the graduation coming up, right? Like whether if there's any if there are any issues or API changes we'd want to propose before we go GA 124, like now would be like the time to do that. So yeah. I mean, we still have 2 weeks, so maybe, so like the PR that you have up is just the V1 types, right? But not
Right.
the feature gate. So maybe like when there's a follow-up PR to bump the feature gate, we can just huddle again and just make sure that we're all okay with the GA graduation going into 124 and discuss it then again, maybe closer to the code freeze.
Okay.
Quick question. Has somebody put in a docs placeholder PR? Because I know for a different, not related to this thing that I have going into this release, I got the reminders like, hey, get your docs placeholder PR in.
For leader migration, yes. The slight issue is that I refer the V1 stable API in my new doc, but it is not ready. It is not ready yet, which is kind of like a dependency loop.
Okay.
Yeah, so neither is making progress, like the graduation and the doc.
Okay. So are there any blockers that we need to?
So sorry, Nick, I have a question for you. So
Yeah.
you mentioned like you're testing it in EKS, but you mentioned the external cloud provider hasn't enabled the configs yet. So like, how does that work? Like, don't you need the external provider to have the migration config wired in?
Yeah, we have it. I mean, we have it on EKS. Like we have the config set up in EKS 121 clusters, and we're doing the migration in 122, which isn't out yet in EKS. But what I meant was like we haven't done that work in the upstream repository to make it easier for users to like,
Gotcha.
There's no like example config or anything.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think for GCP we're guilty of that too. Like I know there's the cops work that Java did, but like we don't have anything in the, or maybe we do with Cuba. Never mind. I take that back. I think we do have some stuff.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, I just need to add something, but haven't got to it yet. All right, so I guess we can move on to the next one, which is PRs to review before code freeze. So we have kubelet credential provider tests. We got the V1 types that we were talking about before for the leader migration. We have avoid updating services with stale specs.
This is that one we were talking about.
Oh, right. Got it.
Yeah, so the context for my last, sorry, let me back up. So there seems to be a bug in the service controller and service controller is one of those like controllers that like the ownership hasn't always been clear, like if it's network or cloud provider, because it's a controller that operates on service, but it's only for cloud providers. Like it's not a generic Kubernetes controller. But anyways, there's a bug here where we're not updating the internal cache. And when I say cache, I mean service controller has its own like really simple cache implementation of service that it populates from the actual controller cache. And the reason why it has that is because when you delete a service, you need when you delete a service, it's immediately removed from the controller cache. So the service controller has its own cache to preserve that service that was deleted, so it can then do the delete operation. And that was before we added finalizers for service type load balancers in like 119 or 118, something like that. And there's a bug where on update, we don't update the cache in service. And so if you did like an update to update ports or something like that, you would still continue to reconcile on stale spec, and obviously that's problematic for obvious reasons. So this is fixing like the cache update, and I think my point was like we added the finalized port in 119 or 118, which means that we don't have to worry about the service being deleted from the cache and not being able to do the delete operation, because we have the finalizer to block that. And so I think we can just do some cleanup here and just delete the service cache, the internal service cache, and just use the controller cache directly. But I do agree that like, it is like a bit of extra work to do, and like we are like 2 weeks out from code freeze, so maybe we just fix the bug and then do the cleanup after. I think I could like I think either we could like I think I can be convinced like either way, but wanted to hear what other people thought about what we should do leading up to code freeze.
I like the idea of fixing the bug. I also would like to get the further improvements in that you're talking about. I'm just kind of wondering if we can or should decouple them, and what your thoughts are on that. You know, so as to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good, etc.
So I have a question for you, Andrew. It sounds like if we do the delete, that the original problems having to do with deleting the services were probably somewhat subtle. And subtle bugs worry me when we get close to code freeze. Do we know if we have any tests, especially E2E tests, that are specifically around why we have that additional cache?
Yeah, I'm very certain I remember reviewing a PR for adding an E2E test for this, for like the finalizer, like deleting a load balancer with the finalizer. But I don't think like the bug is that subtle, or like the behavior is not that subtle. It's just like we didn't have finalizers on delete, and we just needed a way to keep that in memory.
No, I grant that, but I mean, you know, like the problems that I'm just trying to anticipate the problems that may occur if something goes, if there is still a value to having this cache that we haven't thought of. You know, things like I mean, the obvious one is, okay, the service didn't get cleaned up properly, but the more subtle ones may be, you know, we don't propagate the signal out properly and someone tries to use it or something like that, where, you know, most of the time it may not even occur. And so my thought is just, how confident are we that we have the tests to catch that kind of thing if we decide to go ahead with the cleanup before code freeze?
Yeah, I get your point. And like, it's going to require a larger refactor of the code, and that could create more subtle bugs. I think also just thinking about it more, if we did the refactor, it would also make it much harder to backport. So maybe we should just do the simple but ugly fix that's more backportable, and then in 125 we can do the cleanup.
Well, and the other thing is, I think if we go that route, I think we should commit to doing the refactor early so that we have a lot of bake time.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, if we get the refactor in even like before KubeCon EU, and then there's plenty of time to find out if it's gonna bite us.
Yep, sounds good. I will approve that PR this week.
All right, I think it's this one.
Awesome,
So we can
thanks.
take a note that all right. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Cool. I guess I'll just mention, yeah, I'm going to have a PR as well that is going to need review, and I'm hoping to have it probably Thursday or Friday this week, which is for the webhook stuff, yeah.
You're also welcome to send me an early copy if you want, Nick, and I am happy to spend a bunch of time reviewing this. So just as soon as you got something, let me know.
Yeah, I have some items for you, like where exactly some of the muck stuff should go, and how much of the controller infrastructure that we have right now we can reuse. I'm trying to reuse like almost all of it. It might not work for everything though, so yeah, I'll definitely reach out either maybe tomorrow morning and set something up, or whenever you have free time, tomorrow or Friday. Does that sound okay, Walter? Sorry.
Oh yeah, no worries. Sorry, I've been giving you thumbs up and okay signals. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Cool. Anything else anybody wants to bring up? If not, I think we can have a little bit of time back.
Oh wait, no, I don't think we went through the other two PRs there.
Yeah, sorry, we derailed on to the last PR you opened, which was the one that I wanted lots of discussion on, but we do have those other ones as well.
All right, let's get into them. So Andrew, add kubelet credential provider tests.
Yeah, I think this one might be a bit contentious. Like, I think I can see definitely arguments for why we wouldn't want this, but I made some decent progress on the adding some node E2E tests for the credential provider plugin. And like ideally, I started with trying to figure out a way to like incorporate the existing GCP plugin, like the external GCP plugin, into pre-submit somehow. And like DT did a bunch of work as well on like configuring proud jobs. And I think for GA, we definitely want like our E2E proud jobs to be using the actual GCP credential provider plugin. But for beta, I took a shortcut where I basically took like a bare bones implementation of the GCP plugin, and I put it into the GCE cluster directory. And then I updated like the remote node E2E runner to like compile that binary and then configure the kubelet credential provider so we can run a test for pulling a private image with the kubelet credential providers disabled. And basically like the bare bones plugin that we're gonna keep inside the cluster directory is only for testing. And also what's nice is that you can actually build the whole plugin only using like the standard HTTP client. So like in the future, when we remove the cloud providers, it's not going to be an issue because it's like importing some like third-party SDK or something like that. So like the good news is like the test passed and it works with the disable kubelet credential providers feature gate enabled as well. But yeah, like it's questionable if we want. It kind of feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back because we're copying an entry plugin in the main KK repo. That's a bit questionable.
Yeah, well, I definitely like that you implemented it without using the GCP SDK, which is impressive. Is that true?
It wasn't the original plugin that's like built into kubelet doesn't use it either.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. And yeah, right there, if you scroll up a bit, where the kubelet flags are plumbed in, right? So yeah, like yeah, like we're explicitly setting, and like this is actually for all the Node EV tests, which maybe we need to gate that, but this is effectively disabling like the AWS Azure GCP plugins in the kubelet to really make sure that like we're not accidentally authing through the other mechanism.
Right.
So I have a sort of my one comment I will make, which is sort of related. I was chatting with Stephen Augustus a few days ago, and I have already promised that I would send a short, probably like a 2-pager, detailing what needs to happen for cloud provider and testing and release.
Mm-hmm.
So I a lot more of it will go into that email, and I'll make sure to send it to both SIG Release and SIG Cloud Provider.
Mm-hmm.
But my general feeling is this is not materially moving us is not adding to the problem we already have. We are going to have to solve the extraction problem for testing. And I don't think this is really noticeably making that any more difficult. And in the meantime, it's giving us test coverage we need.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that we're testing the pieces that we want to be testing with this change. Sure, we have a kind of ugly, cloud provider, more additional cloud provider code, but like Walter said, we're testing what we actually want to be testing with this. So, whatever.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, please review it. And I think with this GR merged, I think we're also good to go beta on this feature because we also, I think the other requirement was like we have at least 2 implementations out there, which I think we do. And then yeah, for going into GA, we'll have a requirement. I guess like the GA criteria would basically be we can set the kubelet credential provider or disable kubelet feature gate in basically like all the proud jobs, which would necessitate like Walter's effort around like fixing that circular dependency around how we test with the GCP provider and whatnot. So I think it'll be a good forcing function for GA.
Cool. All right, Jared.
Yeah, this one again. So if this one is merged earlier, I can start testing earlier. So just a little bit, just a nag. We already talked about that, and if the decision is that we are going to merge this alongside with other graduation, like flipping the feature gate.
Okay, so you just need reviews, basically.
Yep.
All right. Can make this bold and red. So we'll definitely get all the reviews we need now. Cool. Anything else?
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks.